Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive here at the Activist Archives.
Always a pleasure.
Today, we're going to explore the legacy of a figure who might not be a household name,
hmm
but trust me, he played a really critical role in shaping history, and his name is Bayard Rustin.
You know what's so interesting about this is that Rustin was this master strategist
Right.
and organizer of the civil rights movement, someone who operated so much behind the scenes, but his contributions were really profound.
Totally. And as we kind of dig through these sources, articles, biographies, even firsthand accounts,
Yeah.
our goal is to really understand how his dedication to nonviolent resistance really helped propel the movement forward, even as he faced these tremendous personal challenges, being openly gay in a less accepting time.
You know, it's a story full of complexities and contradictions, and his life intersected with some of the most prominent figures of the era, including Martin Luther King Jr. and A. Philip Randolph.
Of course, let's dive into those early years and influences then. Okay, so it seems like his upbringing played a big role in shaping his worldview.
hmm
He was raised by Quaker grandparents in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and they were deeply committed to civil rights causes.
Absolutely. His grandmother was an active member of the NAACP, and they regularly hosted luminaries like W.E.B. Du Bois and Mary McLeod Bethune in their home.
Wow.
Imagine the kind of conversations young Bayard was exposed to. It's not surprising that he developed a strong sense of justice and equality from a young age.
From a young age, and you can see a direct line from those experiences to his lifelong commitment to nonviolence, right?
Precisely, the Quaker emphasis on peace and social justice clearly had a deep impact on him.
The sources mentioned his diverse education, attending historically black institutions like Wilberforce University and Cheney State Teachers College.
hmm
But here's where it gets really interesting. He didn't actually graduate from either.
So that raises an important question. Why
Yeah.
some sources suggest that his early activism, perhaps even clashes with authority, might have played a role. It seems his passion for justice was already burning brightly in his youth.
Yeah, his involvement with the Young Communist League in the 1930s also caught my eye.
Yeah.
It shows his evolving political beliefs,
Right.
and he eventually shifted away from communism.
You know, his journey through different ideologies highlights his constant search for effective strategies to combat racial and social injustice.
Mhm.
It speaks to his intellectual curiosity and willingness to challenge his own assumptions.
Now let's move on to the 1940s, when Rustin's activism really started to gain momentum.
Okay.
He worked with A. Philip Randolph on the March on Washington movement, which aimed to end segregation in the military and defense industries.
This is where we see his remarkable organizational skills start to shine.
Right.
The movement's protests, even though the march itself didn't happen, were instrumental in pushing President Franklin D. Roosevelt to issue Executive Order 8802.
That order created the Fair Employment Practices Committee, a landmark moment in the fight for fair employment practices.
It set a precedent for government action to address discriminatory hiring practices, a crucial step toward equality.
Rustin's role in co-founding the Congress of Racial Equality, KEI,
Yeah.
further solidified his place in the movement.
Yes.
And then there's the Journey of Reconciliation in 1947, where he was one of the organizers of the first Freedom Ride, challenging segregation in interstate travel.
Talk about putting your beliefs into action. These freedom rides were incredibly courageous acts of defiance against Jim Crow laws. They faced tremendous danger and violence, but they persisted.
And this unwavering dedication came at a personal cost.
Right.
Rustin's pacifism led to his imprisonment for over 2 years during World War II as a conscientious objector.
It's a stark reminder of the sacrifices activists often make.
Yeah.
Rustin's willingness to endure hardship for his principles speaks volumes about his character and commitment.
Now let's shift our focus to Rustin's relationship with Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
He played a crucial role in advising King during the Montgomery bus boycott,
Yeah.
sharing his expertise in nonviolent strategies.
Right.
According to one source, Rustin observed a Montgomery Improvement Association meeting and felt the unstoppable force of the movement firsthand.
What's fascinating here is that Rustin's mentorship came at a pivotal time for King,
Uh-huh.
who was still developing his understanding of nonviolent resistance.
Right.
Rustin provided invaluable guidance, drawing on his own experiences and knowledge of Gandhi's teachings.
It's clear that this mentorship was a turning point, shaping King's approach to activism and influencing the course of the civil rights movement.
Their collaboration extended beyond the Montgomery boycott.
Yeah.
Rustin was deeply involved in the formation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC,
Okay.
drafting documents and shaping strategies, albeit often behind the scenes.
And then, of course, there's the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Rustin's organizational genius was on full display.
Imagine coordinating an event of that magnitude with over 200,000 participants.
Wow.
It's a testament to Rustin's logistical brilliance and his ability to unite diverse groups under a common cause.
The march's success, leading to the passage of landmark civil rights legislation, cemented Rustin's legacy as a master strategist.
But it's important to remember that his journey wasn't without its obstacles.
Of course.
His open homosexuality, a taboo subject at the time, created significant challenges.
Absolutely. The sources highlight the pressure he faced from some civil rights leaders who feared that his sexuality would be used to discredit the movement.
It's a painful reminder of the prejudice and discrimination that LGBTQ+ individuals faced even within movements fighting for equality.
His 1953 arrest and conviction for homosexual activity in Pasadena, California, underscores the harsh realities of the time.
Right.
It's incredible how he persevered despite these setbacks.
His resilience is truly remarkable.
Yeah.
He continued to fight for justice even when he himself was a target of injustice.
Despite the controversies, Rustin never backed down from his principles. He remained a powerful voice for change, advocating for both racial and LGBTQ+ rights.
His story highlights the complexities of the civil rights movement, where personal identities and political goals sometimes clashed.
Later in life, Rustin continued his activism, focusing on economic justice and coalition building with the A. Philip Randolph Institute.
This shift towards economic equality demonstrates his understanding of the interconnectedness of social justice issues.
He believed that achieving true equality required addressing not just racial discrimination, but also economic disparity.
And his emphasis on coalition building underscores the power of diverse groups working together towards a common goal.
It's a lesson that remains relevant today as we continue to grapple with issues of social and economic justice.
Rustin's legacy is such a good reminder that progress doesn't just require courage and conviction,
Yeah.
but also strategic planning and a willingness to build bridges across differences.
He really did it all. His story is an inspiration to us all,
Yep.
challenging us to fight for a more just and equitable world, even in the face of adversity.
And to recognize that true leadership often comes from those who work tirelessly behind the scenes,
Right.
driven by a deep commitment to their cause.
It's fascinating to see how Rustin's personal experiences directly shaped his activism.
Yeah.
Take his time in prison during World War II.
Yes, as a conscientious objector.
Right.
It's a testament to his unwavering pacifism,
Wow.
even in the face of global conflict. He believed so strongly in nonviolence that he was willing to endure imprisonment for his convictions.
And that experience didn't deter him at all. In fact, it seemed to strengthen his resolve.
Absolutely. He emerged from prison even more dedicated to fighting for social justice. You can see this reflected in his work with the Journey of Reconciliation, the first freedom ride challenging segregation in interstate travel.
It's amazing to think about the sheer courage it took to participate in those rides.
Right.
They were putting their lives on the line to challenge Jim Crow laws.
And you see Rustin's strategic mind at work here. He meticulously planned these rides, understanding the importance of media coverage and public pressure to force change.
Speaking of strategy, we can't overlook Rustin's pivotal role in mentoring Martin Luther King Jr. during the Montgomery bus boycott.
Yes.
He provided King with invaluable guidance on nonviolent resistance.
It's a common misconception that King was already a seasoned expert in nonviolent tactics.
Right.
In reality, he was still learning and evolving, and Rustin's mentorship was crucial in shaping his approach.
But wasn't King already committed to nonviolence?
He was.
What specifically did Rustin bring to the table that changed King's approach?
Rustin's experience with Gandhi's teachings and his own practical experience organizing protests gave him a depth of understanding that King was still developing.
You say Rustin was a master strategist, but his arrest in Pasadena seems like a strategic blunder.
Well, it's important to remember the context of the time. Societal homophobia was rampant, and Rustin's arrest was a deliberate attempt to discredit him.
Oh, wow.
And damage the movement. It's a tragic example of how personal prejudice can be weaponized against those fighting for justice.
It makes you wonder how much more he could have achieved had he not faced such intense scrutiny and discrimination because of his sexuality.
It's a sobering thought, but also a testament to his resilience.
Yeah.
Despite the setbacks and personal attacks, he never gave up on the fight for equality.
Now let's talk about the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, arguably Rustin's most well-known accomplishment.
Okay.
To organize an event of that scale with over 200,000 participants is just mind-blowing.
Imagine the logistics involved, coordinating transportation, securing permits, ensuring the safety of everyone. It was a monumental undertaking.
Yeah.
And yet Rustin pulled it off flawlessly.
The success of the march leading to the passage of landmark civil rights legislation solidified his place in history.
Absolutely.
It's a shame, though, that he wasn't able to fully celebrate that victory publicly.
You're right. Despite being the chief organizer, Rustin remained largely behind the scenes, due to concerns about his sexuality overshadowing the message of the march.
It's a heartbreaking reminder of how prejudice can force even the most brilliant individuals into the shadows.
However, Rustin never let that diminish his commitment to the cause. He continued to work tirelessly, shifting his focus to economic justice and coalition building through the A. Philip Randolph Institute.
You know, I've always admired people who can shift gears like that.
Me too.
It shows a deep understanding that the fight for equality requires a multi-pronged approach.
Right.
You can't address racial injustice without tackling economic inequality as well.
And Rustin understood that better than most.
Yes.
He saw the interconnectedness of these issues and advocated for a holistic approach to social justice.
It's incredible to think about the range of his work he was involved in. Everything from organizing protests to drafting legislation to advising world leaders.
He was a true Renaissance man of the civil rights movement, a master strategist, a brilliant organizer, and a tireless advocate for justice.
And yet he's still relatively unknown to the general public. Why do you think that is?
I think there are several factors at play. His sexuality undoubtedly played a role, as it forced him to operate more behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Also, he was always more focused on the cause than personal recognition.
It's a shame because his story deserves to be told.
It's dumb.
His legacy is a reminder that true leadership isn't about seeking the spotlight. It's about making a lasting impact.
And Rustin's impact was undeniable. He shaped the course of history, helping to dismantle segregation and pave the way for a more just and equitable society.
It's clear that Rustin was a complex and fascinating individual. He was a brilliant strategist and organizer, but also deeply flawed and human. He made mistakes, faced setbacks, and dealt with personal struggles.
Yes, and I think that's what makes his story so compelling. He reminds us that even the most influential figures are just people trying to navigate a complex world and make a difference.
His legacy challenges us to be more nuanced in our understanding of history and to recognize the contributions of those who may not fit the traditional mold of a hero.
He was a pioneer, a visionary, and a tireless champion for justice.
Totally.
His story deserves to be shared and celebrated.
It's been a privilege to delve into his life and legacy today. I hope our listeners are as inspired by his story as I am.
I believe they will be. Rustin's life is a testament to the power of one individual to make a difference, and his legacy continues to inspire us to fight for a more just and compassionate world.
It's amazing how his story challenges us to rethink how we define leadership, impact, and success. It's not always about being the loudest voice or the one in the spotlight.
Precisely. Rustin's legacy reminds us that lasting change often requires strategic planning, behind-the-scenes coordination, and a willingness to empower others.
And let's not forget the personal cost of his activism. He faced immense criticism and pressure for being openly gay in a time when society was far less accepting.
It's a stark reminder of the intersecting challenges faced by marginalized individuals. Even within movements, fighting for equality, prejudice, and discrimination can exist.
Rustin's story is a call for us to be more aware of our own biases and to ensure that the movements we build are truly inclusive and welcoming to everyone.
He reminds us that solidarity and allyship are crucial. We must stand up for each other, amplify marginalized voices, and create spaces where everyone feels safe and respected.
So as we conclude our deep dive into the life and legacy of Bayard Rustin, I hope you're left with a sense of awe at his impact, his unwavering dedication to justice, and his courage in the face of adversity.
His story is an inspiration to us all, challenging us to be more strategic in our activism, more compassionate in our interactions, and more courageous in our pursuit of a just and equitable world.
If this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to delve deeper into Rustin's story. There are incredible documentaries, books, and articles that explore his life and work in greater detail.
And as you continue to learn about the history of social justice movements, I urge you to seek out the stories of those unsung heroes, the individuals who may not have received the spotlight, but whose contributions were nonetheless profound.
Their legacies, like Rustin's, remind us that change is often a collective effort, a tapestry woven together by the actions of countless individuals, both known and unknown.
And as we move forward, let's carry their spirit with us, striving to create a world that reflects their vision of equality, justice, and love.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep fighting for a better world.